Yo, what's going on, guys? Your boy Pony Montana, and in this video, we're going to be going over shading techniques to help your defense if you guys are running man coverage in Madden 23. Now, before I get into it, if you guys are new to the channel, do not forget to hit that subscribe button, like the video, and comment down below anything you guys might be struggling with or anything you guys might want to see on the channel, or just comment FTA because it's for the algorithm. If you guys are back for another video, you guys already know the vibes. Drop, comment, anything helps push these videos out to more and more people. So let's get right into it, man. Man coverage and something that you guys can do to kind of help yourselves out. Now, I previously went over a video explaining inside shade, and I think some people are confused on what inside shade actually is. Now, inside shade doesn't mean that you're going to shade inside. It means you're shading. You're gonna have better man coverage within the numbers, to where you won't fall back too often when it comes to actually, guarding whoever it is that you guys are planning on guarding, or defending. Now, the way that people get this mixed up, and I'm actually going to showcase exactly what the inside shade thing is. Now, the way that people get this mixed up is they think that inside shade is shading towards the inside. So it doesn't mean that you're going to end up getting great coverage if your guy is in a slant. That's not what it means. It doesn't mean that you're going to shade perfectly on inside routes. It means that you're going to shade better within the numbers. So if you guys are playing someone who's running like some kind of offense that is a spread offense, where this guy is, and he ends up being on the outside here, it's going to change the way that your man coverage works, and man beating routes will end up destroying that person if they have the right abilities on those players. Now, there's another one. It's called outside shade, and that's going to help outside the numbers. But in this game, the reason why inside shade is so popular is because of formations like bunch tight end, gun tight, tight offset, gun bunch. Those are all meta formations where it doesn't matter where the guys are lined up. So if I'm on the offensive side, it doesn't matter where the guys are lined up. If I go ahead and audible into a tight slots, all four receivers are going to be within the numbers, which means that your inside shades should properly work, and they should pretty much sort of, I'm not going to say completely clamp up, but they should do a decent job at, trying to contain a receiver from breaking too far loose. Now, if they're in a bunch formation, you only have one receiver that's on the outside. As you can see, there's only one. But for a majority of the formations in this game, your defense, or your offense, excuse me, is going to be within the numbers unless you motion one of these guys outwards towards the outside numbers. And that's where inside shade actually does the best. It actually shades way better when you guys are playing within the numbers, and that's why inside shade is such a popular ability and such a dominant ability in Madden 23. So again, the way you shade doesn't really affect it, but it does, it sort of makes it a little bit better in terms of where your guy's going to actually play his coverage. So right now I'm just going to hop in, let's just hop in bunch tight end again. And then on the defensive side, I did go over DB fire to press, but since this is a man coverage video, I'm going to go over the defense that I'm currently running, and that is the 3-3 Cub. I'm going to audible, and I'm going to substitute Ronnie Lott in here because he does have inside shade. Now, disclaimer, by the way, this does not mean that everything that runs with inside shade is going to completely clamp up every single route. It's just sort of a placeholder for kind of pretty much trying its best to actually shade. Now, again, even with shading is sort of dependent on your man coverage ratings and your press rating and all that type of stuff. But what shading does is it pretty much makes it so that your guy gets leveraged inside. So if you shade the guy inside, you're gonna leverage where that guy is gonna end up going. So if you're pressing and shading inside, your guy should jam him and kind of force him to be behind him, and it's gonna make your man coverage look a little bit better. But in reality, it's not really better. It's just you're shading the proper way depending on which way that they're running. So if I put this guy, if I put 17 here on a streak, and I go ahead and I individually shade Ronnie Lott and I shade him inside, the streak should go up the field towards the left side of that defender. And that's where the man coverage shading goes and gets a little bit different. Now, to individually shade, you press triangle and it brings up well, I'm on the offensive controller. You press triangle and it brings up your coverage adjustments. And then you press X or A if you guys are on the Xbox, and then it brings up the individual person that you might want to be shading. So right now we want to shade Scary Terry, and we're going to shade him towards the right side. And when that happens, I'm going to put Scary Terry on a streak here. He should, again, it's Madden, so you guys never know what Madden's gonna do with certain things here. But Ronnie Lott should force him towards the outside here. And this time he actually got forced towards the inside. Scary Terry's got short out elite, and my user's going to be there for a beautiful interception. Again, it's EA. EA doesn't eat. Nothing is ever perfect when it comes to this game. So that's something that should happen, is they should sit there and pretty much get that outside leverage. So let's do it one more time and see if EA is going to be a little more consistent here. So again, we're going to take Scary Terry. We're going to individually shade him towards the right, and he should get outside leverage here. I'm going to put these guys out here, and I'm going to motion this guy out and put him on a flat. So now let's do that one more time, and I'm going to call hike. Let me take my user off of Ronnie Lott. I'm going to call hike, and as you can see, this time he ends up getting the shade, and you know he's not on a fade because fades don't work with the short out elite. Simply, he just got motioned and shifted over to the right side, towards the outside, simply because we were shading towards the left. And now if we do that again, we're gonna shade him towards the outside, excuse me, towards the left side, and we're gonna put Scary Terry on a streak once again, and we're gonna take these outside receivers and just motion them out real quick. So now, since we're shading Scary Terry towards the left, he should get that inside leverage, and he should burn him inside. And he kind of does there. As you can see, Patrick Mahomes, beautiful dot. Ronnie Lott can't do anything about it. Now, shading does help with these short routes, obviously, like slants and posts and stuff like that. So let's test that out as well. And I'm going to show you something that you guys can do if you guys are running like the hybrid coverages in Madden to make your offense a little bit better here. So I'm going to take this guy, put him in a deep blue here. I'm going to keep Peppers back up, and I'm going to take Ronnie Lott, and I'm going to individually shade Scary Terry, and I'm going to shade towards the right. Now, obviously, you can also shade underneath and over the top if you guys want that extra kind of coverage, especially if you have like cloud flats or any type of coverage underneath it. You guys can shade over the top if you have deep blues. Excuse me, you guys can shade underneath if you have deep blues over the top of these guys, or you can shade underneath if you have deep blues. You can shade over the top if you have cloud flats, just so you guys can have that separate coverage that's going to help you guys out. So if your defense looks like this, if your defense looks something like this, oh, let me put Peppers in the deep blue out here. You don't even have to shade it down or up, because you have a cloud flat and a deep zone that's going to help you guys out depending on what it is that your guy is running. So again, the hybrid kind of defenses work 10 times better when it comes to shutting down people who are going for whatever's. But again, if you guys have something like this is where you're going to want to shade inside. You have two separate routes, that you have two separate defenders that are going to be covering the flats. You have a defender that's going to be covering the deep out zones, and then you have your inside shade that there's only one way for that guy to go where he's not going to be completely clamped up, and that is inside. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our user and we're going to individually shade him inside. And in this situation, we can also press him as well. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We've pressed him, and our inside shade should work very, very well. And our user's there, and everything else is absolutely clamped up. Now, Scary Terry does have very good abilities, and if you guys noticed, he lights up, and that's because he has a short inability. And that's why he ends up getting a decent amount of separation here. But without that ability, he ends up getting absolutely clamped up. And that's exactly why the shading is so important to actually dominating some of the people here. Now, the only thing that's going to help out with the inside shades are obviously the route KOs, and that's going to help and make your defense 10 times better. Now, again, if you guys have zones, if you guys are running a hybrid version of these defenses, if you guys have zones that are over the top, shade underneath. Take that coverage and shade that person underneath, because it's just going to make sure that person gets clamped up, and so it's going to make it a little bit difficult for that person to get any type of separation. So if you also have a blitz coming in, your defense is going to work 10 times better as well. Now, granted, nothing is perfect in Madden, and obviously you have to adjust accordingly to what your opponent is doing. But the shading is extremely important to your man coverage in Madden, and it's only going to make your game 10 times better. So shading underneath, shading over the top, those are probably the two most crucial. But obviously, if you want to change the leverage in which you're kind of pushing that receiver towards, it's going to make your defense play a lot different. And it's going to make the offense, it's going to disrupt the timing of the offense when you guys are playing against somebody in Madden. So another thing, if you guys have cloud flats, always shade inside because you want those cloud flats to be able to play, especially if you have inside shades. And that is pretty much it when it comes to shading. These shading techniques are going to help out simply because you're kind of basing everything off of what kind of abilities your opponent has. So if you listen, as soon as you hop into a game, your first thing that you should do is always check what kind of abilities your opponent has, and then adjust those inside shades accordingly to what those players might or might not have. So if I notice that number 83 doesn't have any type of like route running abilities, we're going to man that inside shade up to that person all game, because all of a sudden that person is not a factor. So if this guy doesn't have any type of route abilities, that person is no longer a factor in the game, because he's not going to beat us on almost any route because of the inside shade. Hopefully this video makes your defense 10 times better. My name is Pony Montana. Hopefully you guys appreciate the tip, man. I'll see you guys in the next one. Again, if you guys need anything, leave it down in the comment section below. If you guys run man coverage in any sort of different way, let me know, and I'll hop in the lab and see if I can find a way to mix it in better with my defense and create a better defense for all of us. My name is Pony Montana. I'll see you guys in the next video, man. As always, 2 fingers, deuces, and peace out, you guys.